What's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 18 of Books and Brewskies. I'm here with Shane. We're drinking Bud Light seltzers.
It's Friday morning.
It's Friday morning, 10:18 a.m. You guys will be listening to this podcast next week, but have yourself a seltzer at 10:18 a.m. on a Friday. It's good for the soul. Anyhow, today's going to be short and sweet. Just kind of want to thank you guys for everything that you guys have done for us, from listening to the podcast from episode number 1, following us on Instagram,
drinking beer with us,
reading books with us, subscribing to us on the YouTube.
Just being a part of this community, and it's a fun time, and anything we can do for you guys, let us know, and we love having you guys around and love having you guys interact with us and everything like that, and so we want to give you guys a shout out and appreciate you guys and appreciate the community that we have built with all the beers and all the books and
seltzers now.
Yeah, the seltzers.
But yeah, so overall, I just want to ask Shane what his favorite beer has been and what his least favorite beer has been since episode number 1. I know we touched on this a few weeks ago, so you guys have been listening, but we talked about our favorite beers, but we didn't talk about our least liked beers.
I'm going to have to go with the Harp Lager.
Best?
Was my best.
Yeah.
Was my favorite. And then the Derivative was my least favorite.
Okay, that's fair.
Too hoppy.
I'm going to go ahead and say for myself, Harp Lager number 1. Number 2 is going to be the Hellas Lager, because those two are pretty damn good.
I'm surprised you didn't do an IPA over there.
No, IPAs are great, but I really like the smooth drinking beers that we have.
Yeah.
I would say my least favorite beer is going to be the Red Truck beer, because it tasted like a PBR. And there's nothing wrong with PBR if you're in college and on a budget.
But you're a grown-ass man.
And I am I'm halfway to 26. And
quarter of a century.
Yeah, I'm kind of old now. And I just don't like the PBR beers or the Keystone Lights of the worlds anymore. Not that I really ever did. But yeah, so overall, just want to have some fun today.
Book-wise, what's your favorite book?
Like all time? Or like favorite book?
No, that we've read.
Oh, so I was going to say my favorite book is The Book of Methods by Louis Simmons.
Mm. Oh.
We didn't read that one. No, but so far, all the books we've talked about have been great. I think
we have Sun Tzu, we have Mama Mentality, we have You Are a Badass, and we have Capital Gains.
I'm going to say Capital Gains.
Fits right up your alley.
It's right up my alley as far as like entrepreneurship. Obviously going out and starting one company, Ironworks Performance, then starting a second company, Full Ride Sports Nutrition. I think Full Ride came first. Sports Nutrition came first. Either way. And now we're at the point of selling protein starting Monday. So everybody knows. As right now, you only can buy it in Colorado through me, but yeah. So I think that one's great because it's cool to see, Chip obviously talk about how he realized. I think I mentioned this last week when we were talking with Ethan, how he realized that he needed to be all in on all this stuff and couldn't rely on other people to do things. And I think for myself, over the last 3 weeks, as we've come out of quarantine and gotten back to somewhat of a normal life. I went from training in the world in sports performance, obviously we trained a ton. I went from training 20-ish hours during quarantine, and that was like social distance training over Zoom or at a park, one-on-one stuff, to now being back in the gym full go. I'm training like 48 to 55 hours a week and sleeping another, I don't know how many hours in a week, if I'm being honest with you. But, and then
if you 24 times 7.
I don't deal with math at 10:18 a.m. Shane. But and then I look back at when I was with Elite, and I didn't really train. I trained like 30 hours a week at most, and here I am training 50, and I'm like, okay, so it's pretty obvious when you actually like want to put your hands on something and care about something a little bit more, you put a lot more effort into it. And I've noticed now that I'm on my own brand, and putting full effort into that, and it not being elite speed. Now that it's like it's Ironworks Performance, it's mine. I have more people reaching out to me wanting to train, whether that's former athletes that are coming back from college, athletes that were at a different facility or a different company, wanting to train, and it's kids from like everywhere, just like hitting me up on Instagram, like, hey, when are your sessions, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's been cool to see, and I think that book kind of like is right up the alley as far as like starting that out. And obviously, as far as like the nutrition stuff goes, that's a whole different world because I didn't know anything about that. As far as business development stuff, so like learning how to like finding a merchant account, running an online site, the development of like nutrition supplements, labeling, the FDA shit. Honestly, fuck the FDA, but because they're a pain in the ass to deal with. Otherwise, thanks for supporting my supplements, FDA. Thank you. But yeah, it's just a pain with that. But that's different. And I think for anybody that's like wanting to go do entrepreneurship or like dive into, dive into owning a company or starting a company, I say go for it. But you definitely should look into reading some books that have outlined kind of what they went through, what they didn't do right, and then obviously just get the experience too. Just go for it at that point because it's better to learn on the fly. And I know Ethan, if you listen to our podcast number 17 with Ethan Lahota, he talked about how when he took over the Rocky Mountain Rattlers lacrosse from Coach Ade, who had started it, he had to come up with a plan, and in the grand scheme of things, he was just rolling and building teams and getting new kids on, and that's, I think, what you have to do with anything. You just have to go for it because, like in the movie The Benchwarmers, if you build it, nerds will come. Basically, if you build your shit, people will come. As long as you have...
Let's Field of Dreams, too.
Is it?
If you build it, they will come.
If you build something and you have a clear-cut culture and something that people can value, you're gonna get the people. And like you always talk about with Gary Vee, it's like it's not a matter of how many followers you have, it's a matter of having the right followers. And I think that's what we all have to go for as far as like with me with Ironworks or Full Ride Sports Nutrition, or us with Books and Brewskies. I think that's like what we're kind of chasing, is putting out good content. And obviously the listeners we have, those are the right people, and we'll start to gain more as we go.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think I love about quarantine is you get to realize how much you just need to depend on yourself and have to love yourself, and you can do so much alone that you don't need everyone else to be a part of that, and you don't need everyone else to make decisions and everything like that. And it's important to understand like how powerful you are to do your own things, how powerful you are to maybe start your own things. So I think a lot of people now have this like soul searching time to look at themselves and say, you know what, I've made this work. Now we've been in quarantine for a while. It's like, I've done what I need to do. Like I've definitely soul searched. I've definitely found out, okay, I'm greater than what I thought I was maybe if you were at that point, or I can do this or I can't do this. Like you get to understand more about yourself. And I think a lot of people need that. And a lot of people need to learn how to be independent. And they need to learn that to be strong by themselves and to be strong, like doing their own thing and to figure it out on their own, to problem solve on their own. So, I mean, that's one big thing. And I think I've noticed that even more of, I'm not a big fan of relying on people, because I know I've searched so much about myself that now I can do everything on my own. I feel like, and now I can sit there and say, you know, I don't need this help maybe that I need before. Like now I can actually be strong and figure out what I need to do on my own. And that's huge. So just kind of looking back at that, like with quarantine, talk about like entrepreneurship or just anything in life, like the more that you are sustainable and the more that you can soul search for yourself and look at yourself in the mirror, the better that you're going to be off. So that's big. That's big to kind of look at. and yeah, and I love this. I love this book too, and I like the Mama Mentality book. I think the mindset is like super important, and in like the entrepreneurs and the capital gains, and even in like Mama Mentality, just having that strong mindset as you go about life and how to be, different. And we've been talking about that of how do you separate yourself? How do you separate amongst billions of people? What makes you different? And I think Ethan talked about it. I think these books talked about it of finding, Ethan says, like your North Star or finding your passion. But when you find your passion, having the mindset of like, what are your consequences? What are you going to have to go through? And knowing like your end goal at it. And I think that has helped. And I think with a lot of people, when they don't train their mindset and they don't do that day in and day out, they kind of ruin the quality piece of, and they ruin like, how do I separate myself? And then they end up being a part of like the sheep, and like you're just doing the same thing that everyone else is doing over and over and over. And it's kind of funny because Joe and I had this conversation the other day, and we were talking about like work life, and like people are like, well, I can go in, like let's say with you, like you'd be like, I can go in and I train, like 10 hours a day or something like that.
Yeah.
And whatever your work is, whatever you do for a living, like you could say, hey, I'm working like 10 hours a day. But what I told Joe, I was like, what is work? Is work only what we say that we're making like money for our job? Or is work everything else that entails for bigger goals? So like working out for health, social media, other passions, other goals that you have. Like when I told like Joe, I'm like, yeah, I'm like training 7 hours a day training wise, but I'm like, but I feel like I'm working 15 hours a day. I'm doing everything else on top of that to become great. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people kind of lose, like they're like, well, this is work. Like, I think if you're diligent with what you're trying to achieve and what your end goal is, your days become filled up with a lot of important things, whether that's the money, you're part of your job money, but also learning, also doing other passions, also social media, also trying to, do everything else. So when I told Joe that, he's like, yeah, I mean, I guess work can't only be on like just the job you have, but everything else that entails what you're trying to achieve, I guess, in life.
For sure. I mean, if you look at it, right, you have to be able to. I had a very long conversation with one of my athletes one day. His name's Dawson. He is headed to the University of Tampa to play lacrosse. He's arguably one of the best goalies in the state of Colorado. But he came to me about 3 months ago and was like, hey, I want to do my senior project with you. So basically since the beginning of May, so May 1st to May 20th, he was shadowing me around. And we were outside for part of it and then back inside for part of it when we got the gyms reopened. And I had a very long conversation with him about like business development stuff. Because he obviously has now started to coach some kids in like one-on-one sessions about lacrosse, doing like goalie workouts and stuff. And I said, Dawson, like you have to be able to value your own time, right? You don't want to go in and, for us, for example, this applies to people in the service industry more or less, people that provide a service, right? So us providing, training to athletes. Yeah. And for him, like providing coaching. And really any business for that matter, if you're going into something, you have to look at it in the sense that you need to value what you are and what you provide to somebody. And I told Dawson, I said, you can't value your time based off feeling sorry for charging money. Like you need to value yourself and value your own time. So if you're going to go spend 15 hours that day, you better be making damn good money because you just gave up the majority of your day outside with other people. Yeah. Whereas then I told him, I said, you need to value the time you have away from what you're doing as well. You could be grinding and finding your way to go build a company, but you still have to value time to yourself because if you don't, you're going to lose your mind, you're going to lose yourself, and you're probably going to end up losing, your overall core values in yourself for a period of time because then you've taken, the time you used to focus on, say, like working out or eating right or going on walks with your dog. You put those to the side to develop a company, but if you're not taking care of yourself outside of the company, then your company is going to start to fail because that's going to start to drag on and burn you out, right? So it's
you're
about
on yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to take.
And for me, that happened with me when I was elite in 2018. fall of 2018, I was working like 45, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, but not all of it was training. A lot of it was driving between multiple facilities and trying to run multiple facilities, and it drug on and started to pull down my actual life, and then that actually started to pull down the business side of things. And then like now, I realize that you have to focus in on yourself, your business, and still have crossover between the two, but value the time. So if you're charging $10 for an hour, that's probably not enough. If you're like coaching athletes or being a goalie coach or whatever, like if you're a private coach, value yourself and what you provide as a service. And that's my advice to anybody in that realm. And that's just because I understand that world right now. I don't know like the actual business, like I don't say business world, but business world outside of sports performance and gyms. So sorry, that was a little bit of a
no. I mean, I think that's big of people. That's a part of that daily routine, and what we talk about is I think people get so caught up in work, and especially like our age, like in our 20s and stuff like that, that they're like, I gotta work, I gotta make money, I gotta work, I gotta make money.
Yeah.
But then they forget about their like physical and mental health, and then that starts to drown. And like what you talked about, you set these other things aside that you thought weren't priorities, like working out, eating right, stuff like that, and you're like, I can get away with doing this and this, and you're like, yeah, it might last for a little bit, and then probably like 6 months down the road, you start to see the change, and you start to see like your body, dive down. You start to see your mental health dive down. And I think a lot of people don't understand how important it is to have that other valuable time to have those priorities, like you were saying. And a lot of people think work is the main priority to make money. And it's like, no, it's like your health and your body is the one that's making the money, so you are the priority.
Exactly.
You physically are the priority, especially people who are doing hands-on work.
Yeah.
But anything in a business, you mentally got to use your brain, whether you're just on a computer or something like that, or you're physically doing something. We physically do stuff. We have to show exercises. We have to be in shape, stuff like that. So that physical health is super important. So working out is a priority. Working out is an essential necessity, right? And then the same thing of learning.
Normal people, like, sorry to interrupt you, but I even think for you people that do like day jobs, you're sitting on a desk, like get your ass up and go walk, like, because if you're sitting there, you're starting to jack your back up, your hips up, everything's starting to get out of line, and then it's just going to relate to more issues down the line as far as, oh, well, my back is tight every single day that I sit in my chair. Okay, well, then you're going to start creating muscle imbalances. Then your hips are going to get off. Then you're going to start having hip issues. Then you're going to start having knee issues. So take care of your damn self, please.
Yeah. And I always said, like, you have to have, the two P's that I think about is, like, preventative and preparation. Like, day in and day out, you have to be preparing for, like, the future. So like, hey, this for my health, what I'm doing is I'm sustaining it. And I'm sustaining my health. So I know when I'm 60, I'm not trying to look back and be like, oh, I'm gonna be below the curve and trying to redo everything. And you see that a lot. It's like, if you prevent disease, you prevent health issues, you prevent mental issues by your day-to-day routine in every week, then you're not going to have to deal with all this stuff later on with life. And it's like, you get to enjoy your 40s, you get to enjoy your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, your 80s. And people are like, oh, well, older, your body like diminishes and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, it does, right? You lose certain muscle mass, you lose certain stuff like that. But strength training, we all know, keeps your bone density up. And they say you can be lifting till you're 70 years old because your bone density is so high because it's been used to stress on it, and you've taken care of yourself, that you're still fine. You're still able to do stuff. People are still in this mindset of like, oh, by the time I'm 70, I'm going to be like crippled and stuff like that.
I told Aaron.
And I'm like, that's a bad mindset.
Yeah, I told Aaron like months ago, back in December, I said, as soon as I'm not able to squat, fucking kill me.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I think it was here that I said that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, exactly. But what you got to do is you got to do everything on top of it.
Yeah.
And that's not just like strength training. We're talking about everything. Like, that's mental health, that's meditation, that's stretching, that's recovery, static recovery, and active recovery. Like, that's everything you have to do on top of it. But that's how busy life is. But if you want to be feeling good for a lot of your years of your life, for most of your years of your life, or all your years of your life, this is what you have to do.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. And when it becomes a priority to you, and when you do it day in and day out, you see the results. And I was telling Jill this, like, I get my day-to-day routine so busy, but there's so many pieces that I'm so focused on because I've seen the results of it. And when I feel the results and see the results, you're like, this is amazing. You don't want to lose that routine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I said, at some point you have to make some sacrifices, but you have to figure out what are you going to sacrifice and what is able to sacrifice, or you're able to take down the volume of week to week. So if I have a girlfriend and I got to spend time with her and stuff like that, well, okay, I might have to take down certain things in my day on certain times, but the more you find what is important to you, you'll make something else, not replace it, but you'll just, whether that's sleep that you take down, like, you know, Kobe would talk about, like, he's like, well, I had to wake up now, you know, an hour earlier because now I had to go to the gym, I had to take care of my kids, stuff like that. And that's where you get to that point where it's like, well, maybe when you are married, you're maybe only getting 5 hours of sleep or something like that, if you're able to sustain that. But if it's not mentally healthy for you, if you're not able to do it, well, then you got to up your sleep and you got to figure out what else you can take down in the day. So it's just kind of crazy on what you have to do. But I think time management and how important, if you're self-motivated, I mean, things work out in the end. It's just being patient.
For sure.
And I think patience is the hardest piece that we've always talked about. Everyone wants it now. And like, I want it now. Like, I know I'm doing great. I know I'm doing this, but it's like, you just got to wait.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite things, like based off, like kind of going off that Ethan says, right? And Ethan's been, for me, over the last, knowing him since, I've known him for a few years. Didn't start really working with him until June of 2019. When I was with the league still, we had a contract with the high school to run their training. He's been a huge influence as far as like motivational stuff and just overall leadership stuff. And I've taken a lot from him and learned a lot from him, obviously, from like running a business to coaching a team to just how to carry yourself as like a leader of men, right? But one of my favorite things that he says is, if today, I'm going to mess it up, but if today is your best, make tomorrow better than today, or something along the lines of that. So each day you're trying to improve or take a win each day, right? And for me, based off that, it's like small wins each day or each hour of that day will lead to a bigger win down the line, right? It's almost like, okay, we'll win each battle until you win the war, right? So that's something I think everybody needs to take away as far as an athlete goes. Okay, well, today I hit 100 shots, 100 free throws. Tomorrow I'm going to hit 101, right? That's better than today, right? Or lacrosse. Today I spent outside an hour doing, 100 wall balls or whatever, however long it takes, right? In the weight room, I jumped up 2.5 pounds on my clean. Still little wins. All of a sudden, it's like you look back and it's like, holy shit. A year ago today, I was doing this and now I'm here. Like, you look, for me, example, there was a period where I was squatting, I'm going to probably not say the right numbers, but it was like 400, and all of a sudden I'm at 500, right? In like a year time frame. So you're jumping out like 100 pounds in a year, that's fucking huge. And during that time, it's like, I didn't hit a new PR today.
Yeah.
It's like, that's with everything, right? It's like, you didn't hit your sales today? Cool, go hit them tomorrow. Like, you sold $180 of sessions today?
Yeah.
Sell 360 tomorrow. Like, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, having the day-to-day goals is super important.
Yeah.
Like striving for the next day, making things great and always moving up. But I think a lot of times, I've talked to this with like multiple people, sometimes you do have to take, 2 steps back to go 4 steps forward. And I think some people aren't willing to do that. And I think it's important that adaptability to me is probably the most important thing in life, especially right now, how fast-paced life is. You have to be adaptable to everything. And you have to be adaptable not just to like day-to-day routine, but adaptable to your mindset, adaptable to what's going around you, adaptable to like new qualities or new things that you're learning. Because if not, and you get stuck in your ways and you're kind of what you're saying of like, you're trying to build yourself up, but if you're not hitting certain moments, like you still got to be sustainable of, I'm going to be all right. Like with that mental mindset of everything's going to be all right. But sometimes you're like, well, maybe this isn't going the way that I'm going. I need to take 2 steps back real quick so I can take 4 steps forward where I can actually, change it. And we've talked about that kind of like hard work is smart work. Like, we need smart work and hard work together.
Yeah.
Like, those both have to go hand in hand. It's not just about hard work anymore, it's smart work too. And we see that whether that's business oriented, whether that's family oriented, whether that's relationship oriented, you got to be smart. You got to put in the work, but you have to be smart with it.
Yeah.
You have to understand. You have to like know what's going on. Be interactive with what's around you, and be also like self-conscious of who you are.
Yeah.
And some people aren't like that. And the more you learn about yourself, that's the biggest thing, is you got to know yourself to know everything else. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know yourself, you're lost. Like, you're lost. You can't help other people. You got to figure out yourself. Then you can start to help what's going around you, and everything else around you becomes a lot better.
Yeah.
You know.
I think, going off that, what you first started out saying, you have to be able to adapt to things, right? And so one of my favorite things that I've been told about 3 years ago, and I've known this guy since I was very, very young. His name's Aaron Tucker. He was in the military for a long period of time, coach at Grandview High School football-wise. Ran into him in a playoff game. I think it was a playoff game. It might have been a preseason like scrimmage or whatever. But he was telling me, he's like, you have to, for him, when he was working with, military wise, or if he was working, in the police force, whatever he was doing, he was telling me, and this is completely away from like the business aspect, you have to, for them, you could walk around a corner and have a dude have a gun in your face, right? And for them and for himself, it was, you have to accept a situation, adapt to that situation, and attack that situation. So for him, he explained it as like, okay, well, I walk around a corner, this dude has a gun in my face, okay, well, I accept that I could possibly die right now, and then I'm going to adapt to that, and then I'm going to attack it. So basically, I can disarm the dude, right? Take that into your normal life, right? Say elite speed, for example. I leave elite speed, okay, I accepted the fact that I just left a period of my life, I'm adapting to that, and now I'm attacking that. I left, adapted to the situation, started working on ironworks, and now I'm attacking ironworks every single day, right? And that goes for everything. Say, like athletes, people in a regular job, coronavirus, for example, right? Accept it, adapt to staying at home and working from home. Now you're attacking working from home. So,
yeah, no, I like that. I think that's a good way to go about life and what you need to do. But yeah, I think you saying that, you have to have the skill set to be able to do it, and I think a lot of people don't learn how to do the skill set.
Yeah.
But when you learn that skill set, that's what's super important. Is like you were saying with the guy, like if a guy came around the corner and had a gun to you, do you know how to disarm?
Exactly.
Have you prepared to be like disarmed? Yeah. So that's kind of back to, they go hand in hand, kind of back to that preparation, back to that preventative stuff, but you're preparing for what could happen.
Exactly.
And I don't know, is it Newton's like third law or something like that? Or first law or something, I don't know. But he talks about, what can happen will happen, like eventually.
Yeah. And
it doesn't matter, like, they say that a lot with, like Yellowstone Park or something like that, the volcano and everything like that.
We're all gonna die.
Like, what can't happen will eventually happen, whether it's a million years, whether it's whatever. But
one day,
eventually something will probably happen.
Yeah.
Or at least you will probably be in some type of situation that's like it.
Yeah.
So I think if you're preparing yourself day to day, but you're also enjoying and you're still living life, but you're also preparing for stuff in the future that could happen, when that something happens, you're ready for it. Then that becomes a less stress load. You know you're ready. You know you're equipped. You know you're ready to take on life.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do not prep their skills. They don't want to balance themselves. They don't want to build themselves to prep those skills, and that's super important.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as changing a tire, right? How easy is it to go learn how to change a tire? And if you're one day you are driving and it does happen, you don't need all this help or a tow truck or something like that to get you out. You know what I'm saying? That, like, those little things they're important. They're important because you never know if you're in that situation. Or like you said, self-defense. Like, you never know if that might come up and you have to protect yourself or your family or your friends or something like that. So the more you add, I call like your tool belt basically. And you have a tool belt, and like the more, or toolbox, either one, the more you add tools to your box, the more you're ready to do whatever you need to do. If you only got a screwdriver in your box, okay, You only can tighten and loosen screws, right? But if you got a wrench, you got a saw, you got a measuring stick, you got a leveling kit, you got a drill, like you got all that stuff. You're ready for like when something happens. You're like, yeah, I'm prepared. Here's my toolbox. Yeah. Boom, I can use this. Or I can figure something out, mix these two, maybe try to do this. That's what's super important. That's in everything. I tell my athletes that, like, add this to your toolbox. Like, think of it in gameplay speed. Yeah. If you can use this, use this. If you feel that. You don't got to be like everyone else. You can use different things in different situations. Or you're working, right? Yeah. There's a million answers to one solution. I love saying that, especially with my parents, because when your parents like get like all stubborn and they're like, no, this is how you do this. And I'm like, cool, that's how you do it. I'm like, but this is how I do it. You know what I'm saying? There's a million answers to so many solutions that people need to understand that it's okay if you have a different different way you go about to make a solution. You know what I'm saying? You might go about, whatever. I don't know if I have an example, but whatever it would be,
Shane's brain broken now.
Like basically
concussions.
Setting up something, right? Setting up something. You might go about it a completely different way, but we came to the same result. Yeah. Is what I'm getting to. So it's okay to have.
For example, it's like Tom Brady throws a good pass. Peyton Manning throws a duck. Okay. But in the grand scheme of things, they still got to the receiver, they still scored, and in the end Peyton Manning beat Tom Brady with a duck. Just saying.
True.
That's
true. That's why I make the argument with Tim Tebow.
I will
say it's throwing motion, but if it's on target.
But if you look at Tim Tebow could not, the thing is, Peyton Manning threw ducks, Tom Brady throws good passes. Tim Tebow threw footballs into the stands. I'm a big Tebow fan. I love Tim Tebow. And I thought he could have done great things. Instances. I think he could have done great things.
It's not like every QB has fucked up. I'm just saying, look at how many QBs are in the NFL right now, though, it's not like he should.
Not a lot of QBs miss their receiver by 10 yards over their head.
I mean, there's still a lot.
When he came out of college and they fucked with his throwing motion, it jacked him up so much that he couldn't even step into a pass without questioning how he was going to throw the ball.
But that was the biggest thing was
he couldn't.
How are you going to argue someone who's got national championships, who led a team, and you're going to say, he can't play?
He was the most efficient passer in the history of the SEC when he came out of the SEC in 2010.
That's what I'm saying. So it's
2 national championships, multiple bowl games, and Heisman, and you're going to fuck with his throwing motion. Yeah. But when Jay Cutler came into the league in 2006, he dropped the ball further down than Tim Tebow did. You look at Cam Newton, his throwing motion was trash, and guess what? They fucked with it, and the dude fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
He's only on a team now.
Well,
and Von Miller.
Yeah. I would say when you're at that high of a level, trying to change someone that's done something for a long time is mistake one, right? So you saying changing their arm motion is a mistake one. Number 2, we know how it is being an athlete. If you crush someone's self-motivation or you crush their, self-esteem, right? You're going to start getting worse results. Yeah. And it's a simple, we see that with everyone, especially with athletes. Like Josh Rosen was number 1 pick, and now he's not doing much because his confidence is and it's not like he's a bad quarterback. He's got it. He's just his confidence is just shot.
Well, it's like
so it's crazy how much outside forces you have, especially at that level and everything like that. But at the end of the day, results is results, and I think if you put people in the right situation, and I don't know with Tebow, if you would have put him in the right situation and gave him a chance in a different situation and had a coach that believed in him, it would have been all right.
Well, you look at the difference between Paxton Lynch 4 years ago. I love how we got in sports here, but you look at Paxton Lynch 4 years ago under Vance Joseph, and the team would not buy in or push him as to be a quarterback.
Yeah.
You look at Drew Lock now, it's okay, we're going to go get 6 receivers, and now our entire offense runs under 4.540, and
it's like you're given all these weapons, and it's no excuses.
Yeah.
But
granted, Paxton Lynch looked like he had no idea what was going on half the time, and Drew Lock looks like he does.
Yeah.
But it's also a coaching thing, so.
Yeah. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's you have to Yeah, I don't know. But what I was getting with that before, the whole Tebow thing, was you were saying throwing motion. I was like, well, that's the same. Like, you have a different way of getting to a different result. So many QBs out there throw completely different. If you've seen Phillip Rivers throw the ball,
dude,
it's a fucking sidearm. And then you watch other people throw the ball. Like, there's so many different ways QBs throw the balls. They get the same result.
But the ball gets to the end zone, it doesn't matter, and they win games.
So, at the end of the day, if you find what works for you, take that. Take that and run with it. And then you can adapt along the way. You adapt along the way. You build what you need to build. You figure out, okay, I can still take other instances from here. This way might be more efficient, so maybe I can take on that way. So you want to find what's efficient for you. But everyone's different. And one last thing, talking about changing mechanics, we were talking about like running mechanics, like with Usain Bolt. And there's that one coach that, I can't remember who it was, but he's talking about Usain Bolt's running mechanics and everything. And they talked about if they changed it, they could make him faster. And I said, no. I said, like, no way. At some point, when you get to that high of a over and over, you repeating that same motion, the amount of time it's going to take to try to screw someone's mechanic, if you screw off the timing of someone at a high level like that, you will then ruin, like you said, you will ruin everything else, like a throwing motion. You know what I'm saying? It's the same idea when you get to like certain levels like that. Now, can you tweak some things and help some things here and there? Yeah.
Footwork, but stuff. You don't ever fuck with somebody's arm slot.
But yeah, you can't do certain things at that high of a level. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It was just funny watching this guy because he's like, yeah, Usain Bolt's the fastest guy in the world, but I can make him like run, 0.5 seconds faster.
No, you can't, dude.
I'm like, it's just a whole different thing. So I don't know. It's crazy, but yeah, that's what that.
Cool.
You got anything else?
Nah. Thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is episode number 18. Subscribe to YouTube.
In the locker room.
Follow us on the Instagram and the Facebook. And hit Shane up on Instagram if you want. He needs some new friends. He doesn't. We want some new friends in our group of friends, maybe.
Yeah, some new friends. We like our friends.
We like our friends.
But the more the merrier, so we're always, but quality over quantity, so not too many.
True.
All right, guys. Well,
if they have good beers, tell us what we should be drinking.
Yeah, give us some beers.
We need some from out of state. I'm kind of bored of Colorado beers right now.
Give us some out of state beers, and let's look into it, and let's get these beers on the podcast.
Boom.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Peace out.